This tree in Germany's capital Berlin is so old and big that it was given its own name, Dicke Marie or Fat Mary. Berlin's oldest tree, it is thought to be around 800 to 900 years old. Mark Franusch, head of the local forestry office, is fond of it.
Das heißt, es braucht, glaube ich weiß nicht, 6 Leute, 6 Männer, Menschen, Frauen, um sie einmal zu umarmen. Das schaffe ich alleine nicht.
With March having been one of the driest in Germany's history, this brings a challenge for Fat Mary and for many of Germany's forests. Usually, Germany is a rather water-rich country.
Insofern gucken wir ein bisschen besorgt auf die Entwicklung, auf die Vitalität unserer Waldbäume und hoffen sehr auf ein feuchtes, spätes Frühjahr.
Like humans, old trees struggle to adapt to changing conditions as quickly as their younger neighbors, says Franusch.
Er steht da, hat nicht mehr eine solche Plastizität, seine Krone wieder auszubreiten, seine Krone zu ersetzen. Er hat nicht mehr die Möglichkeit, sein Wurzelsystem komplett neu auszurichten und nach den plötzlich anderen Verhältnissen anzupassen, sondern die reagieren sehr empfindlich auf starke und vielleicht auch schnelle Veränderungen ihrer Wachstumssituation, ihrer Umgebung.
To prevent more and more German forests from looking like this, we need to go from forests consisting of only pines or a few species to mixed multi-species forests, Franusch emphasizes. It's not only here in Berlin that drought is a worry or taking a toll. In many regions across the globe, the picture looks grim. It's simply too dry for the time of the year. Here the example of the countries around the Mediterranean. Already in spring it's too dry in Central and Eastern Europe. Northern Africa and Southern Europe, Turkey, but also the Arabian Peninsula are exceptionally dry, largely marked as alarming by the European Drought Observatory. There have always been extreme droughts, as you can see here with these high bars appearing in pretty much every decade, but the number of people being affected by drought is growing. Tens of millions experiencing abnormally dry conditions every year is becoming the new normal. And that's because the planet is warming up due to the burning of coal, oil and gas.
I don't think we will find anytime soon a drought that would not have occurred without climate change. It's just that climate change makes the drought more intense and also more likely.
The reason? Higher temperatures mean more evaporation. Moisture gets sucked out of the ground, rivers, plants and crops, in some regions faster than it can be replaced by rainfall. But it's complicated and different in different parts of the world.
Climate change doesn't mean less rainfall in many parts of the world, but in some regions, the Mediterranean, for example, Southern Europe, has a lot less rainfall because of climate change.
Droughts are a complex phenomenon, and scientists classify it as 4 main types.
The first kind of drought is what we would call meteorological drought. So that's basically the lack of rainfall.
Experts speak of meteorological drought if there has been a lower than average rainfall over a period of 1 to 2 months. The other drought types relate primarily to the consequence of water shortages for the population and nature, but we'll get back to that later. They cannot always be clearly differentiated from one another, as in many cases they occur in parallel. Let's take a closer look. The first of them, hydrological drought. If there is not enough rain for at least 4 months, the groundwater level drops, rivers and freshwater reservoirs are in danger of running dry. For example, the Panama Canal water levels were extremely low last year, as rivers didn't feed enough into it. This was due to too little rain caused by the El Niño weather pattern and worsened by global warming, and it led to huge disruptions to global shipping. Then there is agricultural drought. That's when farmers have water problems. For example, if the soil is too dry, if water reservoirs are empty, plant growth is affected, and the harvests are small or fail completely. There are plenty of examples of agricultural drought: Italy, Spain, France, India, USA, just to name some countries that have been impacted.
In terms of the direct food insecurity implication of droughts, it's the Horn of Africa and Eastern Africa in general that stand out because of both the severity of drought and the severity of the impact of droughts on agricultural production systems.
The consequences range from economic losses, rise in prices, and, in extreme cases, hunger, which leads us to socioeconomic drought. Here the effects are probably most visible. The economy is hit, supply chains and daily life are directly affected. This can be nuclear power plants that had to be limited in France last summer due to a lack of cooling water, a hydropower plant in Zimbabwe that stopped supplying electricity resulting in power cuts, water rationing in Italy and Spain last year, or the ongoing food shortages for millions in southern Africa as a consequence of drought. As a result of ongoing conflict and consecutive failed rain seasons, food prices in Eastern Africa, namely Ethiopia, Somalia and Sudan, increased by 40% in 2023. According to the World Food Programme, that year more than 20 million people suffered from hunger in the region.
It's just when you have a country, if you have a population, that spends 50 to 60% of what they make in a day on food, rather than 10 to 15%, what we do, as we do in Germany, then, even a 20% increase in a basic staple, it can be traumatic, and it basically directly translates into hunger. And higher morbidity, etc.
The economic damage caused by drought is going globally into the billions every year, with a clearly rising trend in the past decades, as we see here. In the USA alone, droughts cause damages of an average of $9 billion every year. The countries with the highest drought risk are located in Southeast Asia and the Middle East, Europe and Africa. To tackle and adapt to a dry world, experts have clear advice.
One is the wastewater reuse, treat the wastewater and then recycle and reuse it more effectively. Another is to increase the reservoir capacity, etc. on ground. Then resilient crop varieties. But what the globe people need is drought early warning or early forecasting methodologies.
Unlike other extreme weather events, there is no advance warning or precise drought forecast, as the full extent only becomes apparent long after the drought has begun, except for the people feeling it on the ground. This is what reality looks like for the 4,000 people living in Anafobisi, a village in Ghana. Every day, volunteers monitor closely how much water is actually available. This morning the water level is low at just 50 centimeters, as so often in the dry season. Tracking rainfall is the only solution they have right now, but nevertheless, it helps the community become more resilient and figure out how to best use the water. Today, not much is left. That means construction work in the village has to stay on hold. They cannot afford the use of water to make concrete. Decades ago, in Windhoek, Namibia, the municipality started recycling domestic sewage, turning it into drinking water. Until today, this is a resource with a vast potential globally. Regular tests are conducted in a laboratory here to ensure the water meets hygienic standards. The current plant supplies between 15 and 25% of the town's overall water. It has also served as a model for other countries as Singapore, Israel or California. It is just one of many examples of long-known but little-used ways of adapting to uncertain water supplies as the planet warms. Experts agree that this will have to change. After all, using less water and more efficiently is no longer just a challenge for hot developing countries, but for hundreds of millions of people all over the globe.